For the first time since 1996, we have a new first-time national champion. That goes to the 2025-2026 Indiana Hoosiers after a win in a compelling national championship game over the Miami Hurricanes there at Hard Rock Stadium. And that's your Heisman Trophy winner, and that's possibly your first-round draft pick. But as for right now, he is the national champion quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, leading Indiana to the national championship last night. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. Patrick, I think if you're a college football fan, this tournament, so to speak, this bracket, this 12-team playoff kind of gave you a little bit of everything. It gave you some new blood. It gave you some great storylines. It even gave you some old school powers because you had Oklahoma in there. You also had Ohio State. You also had Alabama. But above all, it gave you probably the most compelling storyline in recent college football history. That's this Indiana Hoosiers football team going 16-0.
715 losses entering the year.
Yeah.
And when I sat on my couch and I watched that game last year in South Bend, and it was so cold. And I don't think for a second I thought, man, this is going to be the last time that they lose in almost 2 calendar years.
Right.
I don't think I knew how good they could be last year, but a lot of people said, hey, they didn't really play anybody. They got the benefit of a down schedule in the Big Ten, and Curtis Rourke's going to be leaving, so what are you going to do after that?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going to go out and get, so to speak?
Right.
They went out and got Fernando Mendoza, and I was like, okay, but this is the guy that went 6-6 at Cal. He almost beat Miami last year.
That's right.
I believe they had a 28-0 lead on Miami, and then Miami stormed back.
Yep.
So, I mean, he got his revenge, and rightfully so, because, I mean, this, as you mentioned, is probably the most compelling story of the entire college football season, and there were so many in the playoff in general. But, I mean, you want to talk about putting your body on the line to win the national championship.
Oh, yeah.
That touchdown run, I believe it was a 12-yard run, is they're going to make statues of that in Bloomington.
No question about it. It's a 4th and 5, and it wasn't not necessarily the run in of itself was amazing. The call was great as well, because Kirk Cignetti had the field goal unit out there, got the look that they wanted on defense. He said that he didn't feel good about the field goal. Put in basically a different. It wasn't a new play, but it was a new way of them blocking that play.
Right.
And then it comes away with Fernando Mendoza, and then even in that play, Mendoza had a pass option. He decided on it, and it just felt like whenever a lever needed to be pulled, whenever a button needed to be pushed, whenever just something needed to go their way, from the quarterback to the head coach to everybody, just was able to make a play, all the way back down to the defense as well. And Fernando Mendoza, to his credit, he credited that defense. He said, hey, we're not here without this defense. This defense wins championships. They sealed it at the end. I know we'll get to the Miami specific storyline later on in the show, but even the defense came up with a big play, coming up with the interception on Carson Beck.
Right.
Some people say that they kind of baited him to make that throw there at the end for the interception, but it just felt like in every phase of football, special teams included, because they got a block punt for a touchdown as well, they just were clicking on all cylinders.
When I watch these championship-style games across any sport in college, I look for the moments, and there's always that certain moment that defines the rest of how the game goes.
Absolutely.
You could talk about the Devontae Smith bomb in 2020.
Yeah.
You talk about, goodness, it's escaping my mind right now, the interception of Bryce Young for Georgia to win the first championship in a long time. I think that punt block for a touchdown was probably one of that. That honestly was more important in the game than the Mendoza touchdown was.
For sure.
Because that completely changed the course of where this game was headed. It was a grinded first half that was a little bit sloppy at times, and then we started to see these teams start to settle in and settle into the moment in the second half. And it just seemed like time and time again this season, whenever the lights were the brightest for Fernando Mendoza, whenever he got the most hype around him, you were always waiting for when's it going to break, so to speak? When is that moment going to be too big for him? And I really think, I'm going to keep bringing this up, I think that moment in State College, the touchdown pass in the back of the end zone, actually won them the national championship, because in sports, and I'm sure a lot of people will get this, your mental game is arguably more important than your actual skills are.
Right.
And I think that Indiana took away from that game that it does not matter what situation they're in.
Oh, yeah.
And I know they're undefeated, and they finished undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were like, well, what's going to happen in a close game? That moment right there in the middle of the season when they were down and came back and won, I think honestly ended up winning them the national championship because they weren't flustered in this situation.
Right. It's exactly right. And you saw it throughout the course of the year. You mentioned that Penn State game, and you can even go back to the Ohio State game before then in the Big Ten championship. It just found ways after that in the Big Ten championship to be able to compete and play. And Fernando Mendoza was the guy. We saw some of his numbers from last night. It's one of the situations where, once again, it's not like he blows you away. The numbers really don't blow you away, but he's the perfect leader for this team, and I think that's what it was. If you just look at just straight yards and completions and all that, Carson Beck had a similar game.
I think Fernando Mendoza had like 500 passing yards in the entire tournament.
Oh yeah, right, exactly.
But the thing is, he didn't put the ball in harm's way.
Mm-hmm.
That's just something that he never did,
right.
And I think that was very important for him. Not only to win the game, but also since the Raiders brass were there, Mark Davis, the owner, and then Tom Brady, part owner. So, I mean, I think they came out to scout how, hey, this could be our number 1 overall pick. It should be, looking at the quarterback
class. I think
class.
it solidified that,
I don't think you would ever trade out of that spot. And the only reason why you would is if you just, for some reason, think a quarterback next year, it doesn't have to be the top rated quarterback, is going to be better than Fernando Mendoza. I don't see that happening, especially under Tom Brady.
Yeah, and I think, too, if you just look at Fernando Mendoza's story, he gets revenge on whoever passes on him.
Yeah.
The Miami Hurricanes passed on him when he was a 2-star recruit. Apparently,
you don't want to get on that side of history.
They told us the great story of his mom was an athlete at Miami, and she was a little bitter, understandably so for a mother, because her son was not being recruited by Miami.
Right.
He ends up going to Indiana, gets his revenge over Miami in Miami. You don't want to be the Raiders. You pass on him. Next thing you know, he lands in your conference, your division, and he's beating you for the next decade or so. Fernando Mendoza, though, talked about that 4th and 5 touchdown run there that will now be marked in college football history and definitely Indiana history.
Yeah, a big concept that we've really had on ourselves this year is always betting on ourselves. Whether it's preseason, no one thinks we can make it. Whether it's figuring it out in situations like Oregon, Penn State, and Iowa, we've always figured it out. And whenever Coach Signetti, Coach Shanahan, they called that play, we knew, hey, we're going to bet ourselves one more time in the biggest stage of the game. And at that point, I took the drop, and it wasn't the perfect coverage for it, but I trust my linemen, and everybody in that entire offense, an entire team, had a gritty performance today, and we're all putting our bodies on the line. So it's the least I could do for my brothers.
So good stuff there for Fernando Mendoza. I think this championship and this program will be defined by 2 people. Number 1 is Fernando Mendoza, of course, and number 2 is Kirk Signetti. And he has now launched himself. I think football fans knew who he was coming out of JMU. It's like, okay, this is a guy that there's
a rare smile.
Oh yeah, he saw that after the game. I was wondering if he was going to smile after the game, but he does. This is the son of a coach, and he worked for Nick Saban, and now he is a national champion. And I think 3 years ago, most people who knew college football understood, hey, this could be a guy that has some success. I don't know if anybody saw this.
No.
A national championship at Indiana. What do you think his lasting memory will be as a coach that is now in his mid-60s getting his first championship?
Look, I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off here. I know we're going to do some overreactions at the end of this hour, but I'm just going to go out and blatantly say one right now. This is the greatest coaching job of all time. I would argue. Now, here's what I'll say about this. I'll preface it with this. Nick Saban is the greatest coaching career of all time. This is the best single-season coaching job we have ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about he called them a bunch of misfits, and Fernando Mendoza did too, and that was the rallying cry.
Yeah.
I believe he had, 8 4-stars?
Yes, yeah. Between 4 and 5 stars, he had 8 total.
And I think they were all
teams.
4.
Yeah.
I don't think he had a single
not
5-star.
A single 5-star, yeah.
And what I will say about Nick Saban is he did have 4 and 5 stars at Alabama. So for him to be able to do this, and a lot of is going to be brought up about, they were 22, they were 23 years old. My argument to that is every single one of these programs had a chance to get these guys out of the portal.
Absolutely.
A lot of them came from JMU, and that's where he laid the foundation for this team. So you had the option to go out and find these guys in the portal. It's just Curt Cignetti does such a good job at talent evaluation.
Absolutely.
That I think it's honestly the most underrated skill set that he has as a coach. And that's something that you just have to have in today's world. And I think now we're starting to see – here's the thing, though, and Nick Saban would always talk about this. Now is the hard part.
Yeah.
Because you've gotten to the top.
Right.
But the hardest part is staying up there. And
Now
it's going to be
mountain, yeah.
so hard in the NIL and portal era to just be able to basically reload every year.
Right.
And it seems like they might. I think they have the number 5 portal class right now coming in next year. I know Alberto Mendoza is entering the transfer portal. Fernando's younger brother. I believe he's according to some reports, he's linked to Georgia Tech right now.
Okay, yeah.
I think that would be a good fit for him. But I think now we're going to start to see, Indiana used to be the bunch of misfits, but now it's going to be these players are going to come to Indiana like, all right, what can Indiana do for me?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's kind of laying that groundwork, and Cignetti had his JMU guys to help out, and then he added those transfer portal guys there as well. Curt Cignetti spoke last night about the way he's going to enjoy this one. He's a guy that doesn't smile very often, but got a smile from after the game.
And if I was smart, I'd probably retire. Then I'd really be a story. But we need the money. What would I do? No. So I don't know if I'll have a beer in the tilt chair. I had one after the game. That's enough for me. And we'll be back at it. I love what I do. I love football. I'm a football guy. I don't have many other things that besides family. And in the summer, go for a walk with my wife or go away. In February, the old signing date, first day after the old signing date. I'm a film junkie, and I like putting the team together, and we're going to have a lot of challenges next season. And, but I will have a chance to look back at what we got done, and, these guys made it happen. Let me tell you, we had some great senior leadership on this team. Nowakowski, Coogan, Fisher, Kamara, Surratt. We got some underclassmen that are going to be going out. Fernando could be another one or two. But the seniors, this team was so close, so close. When you have this much success year in, year out, your teams are always close. But this team was exceptionally close. And I think Fernando had a big part of that. And I think Coogan and Fisher and going on the road with some of those wins, the Penn State game. What that did for this team, I can't measure. When we were down and out and all the odds were against us, 2nd and 17 running clock, minute 30, and all of a sudden we recomposed and found a way to get that done. That was incredible.
This is a program that was always known for its basketball for the longest time. Legendary head coach, Hall of Famer Bob Knight led one of his teams, one of his many great teams, led one of them, 1975-76, to an undefeated season and a championship. Curt Cignetti now doing the same here. I would have thought if you would have given me the entire sports landscape of colleges to pick from, I think Indiana could have done it in basketball. I think I would have given Kentucky a better shot to do it in football.
Yeah.
I think I would have given Duke probably a better shot at doing it in football. I would have probably given Florida definitely a shot at being able to not only win in both, but go undefeated in both. But it's not. It's IU. It's the Indiana Hoosiers.
Indiana holds the last undefeated football and men's basketball seasons under Bob Knight, as you mentioned, 1975-76. Yes, we still had pictures in black and white. And that was the last time. I know Gonzaga made a nice run at it in 2020, but they were, I believe they lost in the national championship to Baylor that year. So that they fell one game short of a undefeated season. And then this Indiana team, which now we're going to have this conversation finally of where does this Indiana team rank all time?
I will still put my big three. I'm going to have it a big three.
Okay, you got a big three.
I'm just doing it I'm doing it modern era. When I say modern, I mean everything after World War II. I'll put everything after 1970. I would say, in my opinion, it is still going to be the 2019 LSU team. Still is number one. And my number two team, it's kind of a 2A and 2B because we didn't get to see it because of COVID. 2020 Alabama and this Indiana team are probably right there tied. I kind of have to do it tied because Bama that year played 10 regular season games, all in the SEC. This is a 16-game run here for Indiana this year. This year's resume is better than that Alabama team. I think Alabama was deeper. That team was deeper. That team was a lot stronger. But this to me is easily modern era top 5. Easily.
I think there's one thing for certain. This team is better, definitely better than that Michigan team that just won 2 years ago.
Oh, no question, yeah.
Definitely, in my opinion, better than the Ohio State team that won last year.
I'd agree.
And definitely better than those 2 Georgia teams that went back-to-back.
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. That's what I would say.
Way more balanced.
I think you make a good argument about the 2020 Alabama team, because that's the last team that we really saw had true dominance in a field where there were also some other really good teams.
Yes.
I feel like the field has been down the last few years. It almost felt too easy to pick from.
Yeah.
And no offense to our Tennessee friends by any means, which we're going to have on next. Ohio State just kind of rolled through everybody last year. And
exactly.
Tennessee wasn't really the greatest. There were some questions heading into the college football playoff. And then there were some questions about, hey, Oregon, you haven't played in a while. And how are you going to fare in a rematch? And I don't know. I just think that this Indiana team, they deserve their flowers up there with this 2019 LSU team just by the sheer dominance throughout this entire run. And obviously they played more games than the LSU team did. But to go 16-0 after Sark said it before, it'll be highly unlikely that anyone goes 16-0 ever again.
Yeah,
and I just find it so funny that literally the same year, the same season, somebody went 16-0.
16-0, and it's a team that went through Alabama, that went through Ohio State, that went through the gauntlet, including Miami, to be able to.
We can't forget these.
And of course, yeah, this was beautiful. The only time I didn't have a dog in the fight. The only time I had chills that ran down my spine was when they were showing Assembly Hall.
Yeah,
and all the
Assembly
Indiana
Hall was
fans
nuts.
were insane. And then after the game, that place went absolutely crazy.
Keep in mind,
we don't get to see this for a lot. We don't get to see first-time champions a lot. The last time was 1996.
Keep in mind, I'm pretty sure the wind chill was in the negatives.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they didn't care.
Oh no.
But I tell you what, the things I do to see that in Morgan, Virginia. Man,
I know.
You know, I can only hope. Maybe one day, but that day may never come.
We could only hope. Coming